No superpowers allowed inside the building. She goes back to her regular form. She still has the superpowers. Like, what? Like, what if her intent was to bust him out, right? You haven't nullified her powers at all. You're letting someone in basically with a nuke. And just because you can't see it doesn't mean it's not there.
Welcome back to The Watch, and welcome back to another review, episode 2 of She-Hulk.
I'm not sure this one's going to be too long, Nathan.
If it's a short episode, I think we'll all be very grateful, considering, you know, the big teardown we've had recently with the first episode.
Well, the thing is, it's not that much shorter than the first episode. Like, they're like 30 minutes each. Except this one, basically nothing happens. It is such a boring non-event of an episode.
Yeah. Is it weird that I kind of enjoyed that?
That nothing happened. Less to complain about.
Basically, yeah.
It's almost like, so what were your thoughts and takeaways?
The first half, I really didn't enjoy at all. Mm-hmm. There was still, you know, some of the things left over from the first episode that were clearly apparent. But halfway through, I don't know, it changed tones a little bit, and I started to enjoy it a bit more. I'm not saying it was an amazing episode. I wasn't thoroughly, you know, last night I watched it, but before that I watched a K-drama. Oh my gosh, that was the best episode of the season. So going from this amazing story to this... Also, we'll get into it a bit later, but I think these Marvel TV shows are all meant to be movies.
You think?
I think so.
Maybe.
Because the way that they're written, it just feels very movie formula, but when they split them up, they just feel empty. Like this one just felt like it was... meant to be 10 minutes of a movie, but really it was a 30-minute episode?
Yeah. So this one was bad, not as bad as the first episode. Jennifer Walters, the main character, is still insufferable. Not as insufferable as the first one. They don't go so full-blown crazy, deranged feminist kind of, you know, I'm the victim and you know, selfish and all that stuff. There were actually one or two things I even appreciated that I didn't expect. But that does not redeem this show at all. This show is like utter dog crap still, especially because it's just boring. Nothing's happening. And I'm wondering, what's the point? What's the purpose of this show at the moment? Because the first one was almost leading into a fact that you're going to have to use your powers.
Yeah,
you're in a situation and everything that when bad things happen, even though you don't want to, which I still get annoyed with because she's selfish and she doesn't want to help people because her life is so, you know, all that stuff. It seemed like they might have been leading into somewhat of a superhero show. No, this episode is... I could summarize it. It'll have to be spoilers, but like you'd be... If you haven't seen it, you'd be amazed at how nothing really is achieved. This episode, what could have been achieved? In this episode, you could have done in like 5 minutes.
Yeah. Well, they basically did in the trailer anyways. Again, this whole episode, nothing new was revealed. Everything we'd already seen before, you know, within the TV spots, so...
There is still profoundly bad elements of writing. Contradictory nonsense happens, like within a couple of lines to each other, and you're just thinking... Who is writing this crap? Like, when I say it is so blatantly dumb, it's just like... Okay, and we'll give it specific examples in the spoiler section. I have my notes this time on phone because this time was like barely a page of notes, whereas the last episode, that was 3 pages. So that's the difference. Overall, I'd probably give this episode maybe a 2, 3 at most.
Out of 10?
Out of 10.
I'll give it maybe 5 out of 10.
You know,
I actually laughed in this one maybe 2 or 3 times.
She wasn't as obnoxious. That's the other thing.
Yeah.
Is in the previous episode, nearly every attempt of her being snarky, witty, anything just came off as self-entitled arrogance and narcissism. Where this one, there was some bits of like very small, but some bits of perhaps you could call. Like interesting, you know, characterization that wasn't horrible.
Yeah.
For one, like they were willing to be a little bit self-deprecating There's a part where she wasn't paying attention and she has to make a goof of herself.
Yeah.
And that actually, that mildly worked. There was an interaction with a male character where the male character wasn't a complete douche. We are scraping at the bottom of the barrel here. It's like, it should be some of the most basic stuff, and we're reaching to find things.
Well, I'm glad at least there's a few likable male characters in this show.
Yes!
I was surprised, and I was like, oh.
The dad surprised me.
Oh, this is a great guy.
The dad's actually, he's my favourite character so far.
And I knew that would be the case.
This is the type of show from the first episode, you would almost get the impression that they would belittle every male character, including the dad, but the fact that they didn't, it's like... But, again, this is scraping the bottom of the barrel. We're reaching for things because there is so much dumb in this episode, really bad writing, and the fundamental issues still exist. She's still an unlikable character, largely overall. And now, it's just a pointless show where there's no action. Remember, this is supposed to be a superhero property, and so if you were wanting to try and attract any of the original fan base, which clearly they're not trying to do at all,
no,
you would have some elements out of the original material. This, they've just taken the character, stripped everything from her apart from name, but now because she has such a different character, the name doesn't mean anything, and they've slapped She-Hulk on it, saying, yeah, She-Hulk. They've co-opted something that a lot of fans truly enjoyed. She was a fun, quirky, sassy character, gotten rid of all of that, co-opted it for their own agendas that we really saw in episode 1, and now it's just it's not even a good drama, it's not even drama yet. There's no courtroom drama, it's just her trying to do stuff without trying to do specific spoilers, but we're kind of there now, aren't we?
Yeah, I think we just dive in.
Spoilers now. You've been warned, we're going into spoilers. Let me summarise this episode. She loses her job, she gets a job, she chooses to represent a client. The end.
Yeah.
That's it.
Those are the overarching themes. And they managed to sprinkle in a few little subplots or...
Yeah, stretched out.
Yeah.
Or they stretch all the in-betweens for, where the client is Abomination, and so there is there issues because he fought Hulk, Bruce Banner in the past. He is in a high security prison, and so stretching out, entering into the prison. She has dinner with her family, stretching things out, all the in between, stretch. Where what was actually achieved in the episode? Oh, she goes to a bar and she complains and stuff. So it's all filler. They're all packing this in when the actual events could have been achieved in 5 minutes, and it still could have felt like a decent amount of time had passed and progressed, just if they edited, filmed it right, and got the right beats to convey what's been transpiring. And so overall, it's just filler crap. Now, if the stuff in between was interesting, well-written, engaging, maybe you could get away with it, but because it's not, it's just boring.
It really was. When she went over to her parents' place, obviously you have that talk with her dad, which was good. Mm-hmm. But leading up to that, the whole family discussion and her cousin working at Best Buy, being a manager, and everyone... I mean, I guess they wanted the common sense of, she's a superhero now. She knows everything about all the Avengers and asking all these dumb questions about things. But... again, it doesn't really progress anything in the story. It was just meant to be a funny moment.
Yeah. And the weird thing is, the family, as pointless as that family scene was, it was probably the least worst written part of the episode. They wanted to convey, a kill me now kind of family thing where they actually pulled that off, but that's the only thing with mild competence. Then there's everything else, the whole entering into the prison stuff. The first thing was a weird thing for me to notice, but I noticed it. They're reporting the news that, there's a new superhero, Jennifer Walters, and the photo that the news has of Jennifer Walters is this glamour shot. Did you notice that?
Yeah, look...
It's
Marvel doesn't do very good... they do it in Spider-Man as well, with all the news stories and stuff, and a lot of the shots they get seem very staged, almost like, wow, if you were a real news reporter, that'd, you know, be more blurry, maybe not as good of an angle. They get glamour shots quite well.
So do law firms get like their lawyers to go to an actual photography thing and pose and stuff like?
Maybe if you need it for your badge or something.
It's very bizarre. I've never seen a photo like that for like, oh, this lawyer was like usually just a shot from in the courtroom.
Yeah.
And so it already made it feel just artificial and staged as a result. And also, because I'm jaded and skeptical already, they've been trying to inflate. She's so wonderful. She is so perfect. She's so excellent. Everyone's praising her to the point where even the photos, you can't have a regular photo of this character because she's so wonderful in every way. It's one of those small little things that by itself maybe it would have been but taken collectively with everything's going on, it's like they're just trying to make this character out to be so wonderful and perfect, even to the point that photos are just like, you know.
It's funny, so my wife, she hadn't seen the first one, so she sat down for a few minutes to see the second one. You know the first comment she said? I wrote it down because it's the first thing she said.
Okay.
The wife... Oh, sorry, that's my comment. The wife... Okay. The CGI feels unnatural, especially the movements of her face. It feels like a video game, like from the 2010s. And I was like,
oh! There's some heat in that one.
Judgment. But like, yeah, I mean, agree. Because we also had a whole discussion with, like, you know, the transformation, she gets bigger, but her face never changes. It just turns green. And there's the whole discussion of they shouldn't use CGI, they should just paint her face green. So that's just mismanaged. And it comes up every time she transforms, where it was like, doesn't look good. It takes you out of the experience as well.
Why does her hair change and become perfect when she transforms? Hulk his hair didn't change. If anything, got probably a bit more messy because, I don't know, sweat or a bigger scalp for the same hair to cover or anything like that. Her hair legitimately grows longer and becomes perfect. Like manicured, flowing, like...
Gamma radiation does something to your scalp.
It's like very bizarre.
But yeah, also the villain she fought in the first episode was an influencer.
Yeah, a superhero influencer.
I just thought that was a bit cringe and out of place. I felt very...
I could see it happening.
I could see it happening, but they just said it in such a way where I was like, okay, how does that change anything that happened?
But the weird setup, this superhero is getting tried for something.
Was it a speeding ticket or something done
in another thing, and so she decides to bust through into another courtroom and attack the jury of that courtroom. Like, again, writers, who was writing this crap? You would think, I thought that it was, I don't know, a paid hit or something to disrupt the court proceedings, trying to attack someone on the jury, that there would have been a through line, but no, it's just random person who's getting tried in another courtroom decides to bust into another courtroom and then murder the jury because reasons.
Oh, yeah, so that was also...
This is not the only moment of utter ridiculous nonsense in the writing where things do not connect from point A to point B.
They do not.
We saw that in the first episode, and here, again, the level of incompetence this shows and the level of the writing. Now, I don't know if the writer actually did this, but then the showrunners or someone says, I know we need this or that or anything, but this is a pretty damn basic thing, like to ask a question. Why was this lady attacking this courtroom? They want someone to attack a courtroom, to have the worst action scene I think I've seen in a long time. It was such crap. And to achieve what they want in the show, they don't justify it all. They don't actually ask the question, why? Oh, there's someone in another courtroom and she just decides to go and kill people because reasons.
Yeah, the reasonings were not sensible. No motive. The motive was not right. Also, in the news story, they love calling her hero. And I guess they're setting it up to be this, everyone's calling you a superhero and you're fighting against it. You don't want to be the hero. But after the last episode and how just insufferable she was in some areas of like, no, Bruce, I don't want to be a hero. With them being like, this new superhero, I just felt very like, oh, yeah. God.
And you'd think in this world, this universe, right, the MCU, that they're already saying there's a lot of random people appearing just with superpowers.
Yeah.
And they would be a bit more reluctant to call people heroes except those that are actually declaring themselves, I am a superhero, I'm a hero with superpowers, and not just ascribing to anyone with powers now. But you're right, they seem to just be doing that because reasons.
And, like, Hulk wasn't always a good hero. Like, they wasn't in the best spot, like, with the Avengers and stuff. They even talk about it in this episode, you know, at least, you know, you haven't destroyed a city yet. So if another Hulk came out, I feel like lots of people would be, like, freaking out as well.
That's actually a very good point, because Hulk has been just so poorly handled recently, and there's been no real information for us as audience to find out what the world is thinking, feeling about the Hulk. And in reality, I mean, if we were to just infer from past things, like you said, there would probably still be a lot of fear and ill will. Is it public knowledge that Hulk performed the snap to save everyone's life? I can bring everyone back and sacrifice his arm. Did they know that? And I mean, yeah, we saw it in Endgame, where Smart Hulk was popular, people coming up with photos and stuff. So I guess that's kind of implying that there's no fear, but that seems to just undermining what Hulk has actually done. Destroying a city and the horrible rampages. So yeah, like there would be, it would have been so much better if we were given more context as to what has happened with the Hulk. Because then you're right, the reaction to She-Hulk, everyone's just loving her now, but yeah, you know.
Even Spider-Man had his enemies, like people didn't like him.
Yeah.
So you'd think the news would be a bit more critical of superheroes.
Perhaps, like, it would have been better to have perhaps both. Like there's people in support, but people like, it's another Hulk. You know what the other Hulk did? But no, everyone, you're right, it's one-sided. Again, lack of thought and consideration. It's just very, not only surface level, but it is surface level, but on top of that, its execution is so incompetent as well. It's, yeah. There was this chick, pretty decent, and then she turned into like a Hulk, but a chick Hulk. You mean a She-Hulk? Yeah, that!
Yeah. That was
like
good writing.
The guy was cringe.
That was embarrassing.
And I'm not the only one who's observed this. There's been I've been watching reviews. There's been a lot of people observing this. That, like, this, you know, this character, sorry, even the actress, right? She can be presented in a way that could attract the eye. We saw her in Orphan Black, right? She's, you know, middle-aged now, and she's not dressing up in such a way to... She's wearing suits and everything like that, and so this is usually in context with the catcalling thing. She's not the type of woman who would usually get catcalled. She doesn't dress the way that would encourage catcalling and all that stuff, and people just be saying pretty blatantly, like, you know, she's a handsome woman, but like that's about as far as you could probably go. She's I'm saying she's not a 10 out of 10, right? But everyone in this show is like, she's wonderful, she's beautiful, and this guy, like, pretty decent, you know? It's like, it's just, like, have you seen the way she dresses?
I mean, I think it's also just a fascination, and, like, because we get it as well with, you know, Captain America is like, that's a nice, like...
I think it's more justified with Captain America.
But, like, they always bring it up in superheroes, and it's because they are meant to be attractive and good-looking, and so I think they're trying to, I don't know...
But this is the thing, right? Some, like, the audience, we're not stupid, right? It's pretty clear to tell, like, someone who would, like, you saw Black Widow in Iron Man 2, you know? Yeah, that would kind of, like, catch the eye. But compare Black Widow Iron Man 2 to, say, Captain Marvel in any part of the film. Yeah. They're, like, going out of their way to remove some of the sexiness out of the female characters because they think it's objectifying, yet they'll go out of their way to objectify the male characters, which is just complete double standard.
Although I guess as well, when Ant-Man said it, it was more of him trying to suck up to Captain America than it was actually saying how it was good looking. It was more of like a, yeah, we're buddies, right? Yeah.
But this is the thing. In terms of the scale, a lot of the male like superheroes in the MCU, like Captain America, like Thor and everything, they are 10 out of 10, like, idyllic guys, right? We've seen them without their shirts on. But they've been moving out of like, avoiding that with the female characters. And a lot of these female characters, originally, they were made for, like, teenage boys. They were made to be knockouts. And now they're like, you're not allowed to get the eye. We'll give the eye candy for the women, but not the guys. The guys, that's sexist now. And it's just complete hypocrisy. Utter damn hypocrites.
I don't know. I think everyone needs to tone it down, okay?
Well, I come from the position that I actually think there's something positive in the heroic ideal. Like, I think superheroes should be beautiful, both the men and the women, for something to, one, it's you enjoy watching, like, it's just a fact. People like watching beautiful people do awesome things. So there's that. But also, I like the heroic ideal. I like that, superheroes are just buff and everything, because it makes me want to be like that. And even if I'll never achieve it, maybe I will, who knows. But just the attempt, the struggle makes me better than what I was.
Yeah.
And so I'm not criticizing that the male, like, I think, yeah, let the male superheroes be eye candy, but also let the female ones as well. And there's that double standard that just annoys me. And now it's like they're in the show, they're like pretending the female characters are still at that level, when like anyone, even from a casual observation, is like, they're not. I'm sorry. Like, She-Hulk in her She-Hulk form, maybe, but Jen Walters, there's a reason why they have been, anyway.
Yeah.
Pretty decent. And that guy came off as unrealistic cringe as well. The bar scene.
Yeah.
Wow. Like, the bar scene, the CGI's been bad, but when we saw it in the bar scene, it was particularly bad for me. It's like, slap in the face, take me out of the show bad.
No, they should just paint her green. Paint her green, please.
Get a bodybuilder, paint her green. Problem solved.
Just the mismanagement of the CGI in this show has made me question just everything with... I hope they go back to more practical... Not even practical. I hope they just understand they can't fix everything with computers.
Yeah.
But I wasn't even focusing on the CGI because it was a dark scene. I was watching a dark room. It was more what the characters were saying and talking about, that I was just like, oh, okay, we're going back again.
And this is where she comments on the name She-Hulk.
Yeah.
And she has to complain about it because, how dare she be named after a man? It's derivative. It's like, I hope that doesn't stick. It's so, insulting or something to be derivatives, just the Hulk. And it's like, what did she expect?
Also, it's your cousin, man, and you're the second Hulk. Of course they're going to get inspiration from the other guy. Yeah,
like, when... You would almost... I'm trying to figure out what the perception would be in universes versus out universe. Out universe is complete sense. Every time a superhero's come along that's, like, identified with another superhero, they make a connection and then a difference. There's Superman and then Supergirl. There's like, did Supergirl think that was derivative of Superman? But it's just the female interpretation of the male character. There was no male interpretation of the Hulk because it was just one guy and it was the Hulk. But now you need something different... and so, She-Hulk, it's the obvious thing, and it's not insulting or derivative. Well, it is derivative, but it makes sense.
Yeah. Maybe she's jealous of Ant-Man and the Wasp. She's like, I want to call it in like the Wasp.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know, I can't think of anything on top of my head, but like...
I'm trying to think, what would... If Hulk didn't exist and she appeared just as, Hulk form, what would people have called her? Just like the Green Vixen. Like that green would have to be in there for the name.
It would be green, probably, yeah. I don't know.
Because this thing, she doesn't actually look like a Hulk in her green form. People identify it now because of the Hulk, but in her Hulk form, she's a female athlete bodybuilder. She's not like a Hulk.
Yeah.
So much so, I'm now questioning, would they have even made the connection apart from the other green people would, it wouldn't be uncommon for green people in this universe now. And so I'm thinking, would they, I guess, in terms of it's the superheroes in universe, there's probably no other green,
Yeah, and I think with Alien-wise, that humans aren't as, knowledgeable.
Of the Skrull and other things.
Yeah, other stuff like that. It's still a secret. And if you see someone getting a bit taller, their clothes stretching, I guess you would assume that to be some sort of Hulk form. So, I think that makes enough sense. But the bar scene... was the other guy that she works with.
Oh, I know.
That comment, I was like, man, this guy is just the most one-dimensional jerk that they've written.
They have gone out of their way to try and, make him the... Not even, because this thing... Even if people you could try and identify as chauvinistic, whatever, in the real world, they're not that extreme. This is comically, unrealistically bad, whereas, guys, basically what he's saying is you're only popular because She-Hulk, whatever, blah, blah, blah. Oh, there's a hot chick, I'm going to go hit on it. Yeah. And he doesn't even call the girl...
it's it.
Going to go hit on it. It's try and go to the extreme that this guy doesn't even look upon women as people.
Yeah.
They're just objects. And it's like, that wording was intentional, you could tell.
And the other thing that annoys me is that this person, or this guy, is in a somewhat powerful position. Obviously, he's gotten there somehow. And I haven't seen any redeeming... Like, if this guy came into a workplace, I feel like no one would be around him because he's just such a jerk.
Yeah.
I need some sort of charisma or skill or something that shows that, okay, you have value here. Whereas right now, everyone around him is just going, oh my gosh, you're insufferable. So, like... Where is his, like, layers of why he even has the job that he has?
That's an extremely good point. Like, you compare this to something like the TV show Suits, where the lawyers are portrayed as being very intelligent, charismatic. You can see how they got their job. They're really good in negotiation and things. Where this guy is just a douche.
Yeah.
Like, there's no skill anywhere that they're really showing him, apart from the insight that he has that you might want to smile. But other than that, it's like, I'm better than you, should let me do the closing or anything like that.
No, it just feels like he's a character you meant to hate on, and I don't think
he's a caricature. He's a feminist insert caricature of men bad, man bad.
Well, at least now she doesn't need to work for him or work with him anymore because she got fired.
And she meets a guy in this new who seems to be nice. A half decent guy. But of course, we'll see how strong and independent he is. But so something happens in this bar scene as well. The billionaire narcissist comment thing.
Yeah.
She, it annoys me, right? Is she aware that the superheroes saved half the universe, and Tony Stark sacrificed his life to bring to end Thanos? It's like there's no true acknowledgement of the sacrifice superheroes have done in this universe. And so the fact that she could throw them off like, superhero gig is only for billionaire narcissists and orphans, oddly enough, is, in context of this universe, is a loathsomely catty, insulting line for what's actually happened here. And again, this is what I mean. The character is still coming off as horribly just entitled and just an awful person. To say that in the context of what happened is just mind-boggling.
Yeah. The only sense I can make of it is because she's a lawyer, she has the more, letter of the law focus on things. And so, since in the law there isn't so much superhero stuff, she says, I'm not a superhero vigilante, she calls herself, and then goes on to talk about whatever. Also, I want to know whether or not she got blipped.
Yeah, wouldn't that be interesting?
Did she disappear and come back and then just... was in chaos? Or was she there during those years of...
Either or, her whole life should be informed about that event, really, because it was such a crazy event. Either she would have to be so insanely grateful for what Bruce did to bring her back, and all the other superheroes, or she would have experienced the hell it would have been when everyone died.
Yeah.
And no one should be able to forget that. But, like the MCU... They've basically tried to say, the blip is done, we've dealt with it, moving on, and no one's acknowledged it. And that would be such a world-shattering thing.
Yeah.
No one would be getting over this for ages. We're talking about generations here. And now they're playing it it doesn't even exist, the point where she can belittle the idea of superheroes, when reality is, in this universe, superheroes are not only insanely crucial, you would be just so insanely grateful for their existence, because... the world is a horrifying hellscape otherwise with these villains and terrible things happening, to the point where everyone would not only be just desperate to have new superheroes arrive that could help the battle against these horrible things. If you get the powers, it might help inform you your kind of context and understanding how important and significant those powers might be in the larger scale of things.
You'd also think having your cousin as a superhero as well, you might be able to relate to him a bit more or feel sorry for him.
Yeah,
because you grew up with him and be like, wow, you've been through some tough times. I know what your parents were like. Boy, that was rough, buddy. But in this one, she doesn't even... I feel like she's just calling out her cousin as well, who has obviously had a rough time. It just doesn't... It's very jarring in her. I don't know. If she was more separate from it all, if she had some vendetta against superheroes, it makes sense. But because she's so close to them... she should have more sympathy for them.
Rubs me very much the wrong way with that.
Oh, then there was also the whole Avengers thing. She was like, do they have free healthcare? Do they get a pension?
So, do they even get paid? This is like hilarious because according to Falcon and the Winter Soldier, they don't.
Nah.
But according to like Bruce Banner, who got an island, bunker, everything, they get insane amounts.
You're gonna be one of the top
resources.
5 Avengers to get. You're gonna be with Tony Stark, basically.
Like it's ridiculous. They should be getting paid loads of cash, but because they were so desperate to push a certain narrative in Falcon and the Winter Soldier, they contradict reality and have him like, desperate for cash and not getting paid, basically. It was just utterly ridiculous. And so, yeah, there's that. And then we find out that the trial continued after that attack. Like, someone literally busted through a wall, tried to kill the jury, and they continued the trial to the point of being able to argue for a mistrial because by She-Hulk saving the... so ridiculous. She-Hulk saving the jury, that unfavorably biased the jury in her favour to rule in her favour, and they were able to argue for a mistrial. This is insanity! It's like the trial would have been called off just because there was an attack!
Yeah.
And they said it continued. And not only that, then she got, it's basically, as a result, she gets fired because of being She-Hulk and all this garbage. It's nonsense of the highest order, right? The writers weren't kidding when they said they couldn't write a political drama or whatever, but they're also, you don't know anything about law. I don't know anything about law, and I can infer this much.
Yeah, if you get a bench or table thrown at you, you're not going to want to finish the trial.
If there's an attack from some criminal that literally tries to murder people, you're telling me the trial would continue?
Although, in this day and age, are they used to getting things thrown at them with, Thanos and Spider-Man and everything else that's happened? They're like, it was just a table. It wasn't a car or a planet eater or anything else.
It is nonsense of, like I said, the highest order. This is utter stupidity. Again, like, who's writing this crap? I like, just the most basic common sense would inform you that this is stupid. Yet they unironically put it in the show like this is all...
And then as well, her response to that was, what was I supposed to do? Let them get hit by a desk, blunt force trauma, bleed out all over the courtroom? You didn't even want to do it in the first place.
I know!
Your friend was like, hey, transform! Oh, I don't know, this is a nice dress. No, transform! And then she does it.
You're absolutely right.
You don't want to be a hero or save people's lives, but then you make it as an excuse later when you're going to lose your job.
And then the fact she loses the job, it's like, maybe. I'm not there with you, but... yeah, you would have to do a lot more to convince me that someone would fire her for this, right? You could claim discrimination. Like, do you reckon there would be like anti-discrimination laws for people with powers now in this universe? Like, you'd think so.
Maybe. I don't know. It'd be tricky though. Depends on what the job is and what your powers are, I think.
But then, bullcrap. I'm calling bullcrap that it was impossible to find a job that no one would hire her because she became well known as like having superpowers. Like, you're telling me not one single law firm, aside from the one that actually does approach her in the end, would have been fully on board to have like a celebrity, litigator that people go out of their way to want to represent them. No one would hire. This is again a complete incompetence of the writing, where to achieve what they want to achieve something in the story, yet they have no talent to justify it logically, so they just do it anyway, making it nonsense. What the story is, they want this guy to approach her to offer this job to work for, this special superhero division, whatever, and therefore they want her out of a job, so they fire her for reasons that aren't really justified, and then they just decide to say bullcrap that all the people she approached, no one was going to hire her at all.
It made more sense if she got offered jobs, but then when she went for interviews or whatever, she realised it was a shady firm.
But this is the thing, the firm that hired her was a shady firm.
Yeah, and she went for it. Also, okay, she was drunk when she accepted the job, so I give her some leeway, but if you get offered a job, you're going to look at the contract, of the agreement, what your terms are, all that sort of stuff, where she rocks up Monday and then goes, oh, this is a bad decision. I don't want to be here.
Well, she isn't really like that. She's just umming and ahhing, and then her friend is like, this is great, look at our office and stuff. But yeah, she didn't even know that part of the contract in the job was to be She-Hulk on the job. She just accepted
a job.
And trying to push that because she was so desperate for a job when they didn't justify it. Like, she should have been getting job offers left, right, and centre.
Yeah.
But no, again, the writers, they lack the talent to justify the goals in the story, so they just do it anyway without the talent to achieve it, making nonsense as a result.
Also, just the fact that she's shocked about this, and then everyone's like, well, obviously you're going to lose your job because of whatever. If I had superpowers, okay, and I revealed them to you, I know exactly how you would react because you're my boss. And I feel like she'd know the same with her firm. If someone discovered, one of their employees had superpowers, I think you'd be able to have a fair, reasonable assumption of what the reaction would be.
What do you think my reaction would be, Nathan, out of interest?
You'd be, Nathan, why are you here? Go save people's lives.
It depends on what the powers are.
Obviously. If they were like Superman powers.
Okay, Superman powers.
You'd be like, go save the world.
Yeah, probably.
And then come back occasionally help build castles.
Aside from saying this is awesome and we could use it in videos.
Yeah. You'd be like, if you can come back occasionally just to test a theory in a video, that'd be fine.
Because you telling me her employer sought no benefits at all from her being now this high-profile, lawyer with superpowers. No. To the point where he would just fire her flat out. After, again, also loyalty, saving people's lives and other things like that, where he tried to say, yeah, you save people's lives, I'm not firing you anyway. It's nonsense. It's bullcrap. Yeah. Don't try and feed me this tripe. Oh, my goodness.
They needed better reasons to fire her. Yeah. She had to, I don't know. Something. Think up something.
Give me 10 minutes to half an hour and I reckon I could come up with something vastly more satisfying. Yeah. Okay? Like, what if, again, you would need to have set up this a little bit, she was still having trouble controlling some of the rage impulses in Hulk form, and she loses a little bit to the point where she does scare people a little bit. Done. Justified. But guess what? That would have to give her some flaws and some arc to be able to learn to overcome and things. They can't have that. But look, 2 minutes less to come up with something that would satisfy the needs of the story to achieve what you want, but it'll just mean, changing the backstory a bit to get some set up, some foundation to justify what you need to achieve in the story. They don't have the talent for this because they're being subverted by their own agenda. She has to be perfect, right?
Yeah.
So, crap. When I said this is crap, I mean, I'm not making this up. We want good shows, okay? I don't like the fact that we have to be so critical, but we call out crap when we see it, and so much is crap, but if it's good, we praise it. Look at my review of House of Dragons, episode 1. I was surprised at how good that was, alright? If it's good, we'll acknowledge it, but I'm not hating on this just because Marvel... I would love to have good Marvel shows again. I mean, wouldn't change my views on Disney as a company overall. They'd have to do a lot to try and redeem my view of Disney as a company, but I could enjoy good shows if it's just a damn good show. This is garbage. Crap. And just while we're here on that topic, right, I've been trying to deflect the criticisms. So Mark Ruffalo came out with this, brain dead tweet where it's like, so terrible that in this day and age, he's trying to say all the bad reviews are disingenuous reviews, and that it's only because it has a woman, lead. And it's like, are you kidding me? Oh, come off it. It is so disingenuous crap where you'd only with half a brain would you have to look at all the shows led by female, and protagonists that people have loved. It's not that at all. It's because it's a crap show, but they're so vain and also possessed, and they want to deflect. They're so insecure about their own capacities that they could never be part of something that's actually bad, so therefore it must be other reasons. They're racist. People are racist, so they just can't accept a female lead show. It's like, come off it. Don't give me this friggin' crap.
Yeah, even back in the day, George Lucas, when he made episode 1, he was like, it's a bit rushed. It's not the best movie I've made, honestly. He came out and said that first before it even, was released. He's like, look, I screwed up on this one, where here they can't even, they deflect, either saying, reviews are being bombed, people are, criticizing other actresses and characters and attacking people, this and that. They can't even just admit, even the CGI, they came out and said other stuff. Instead of saying, okay, yeah, it doesn't look the best, they were like, nah.
The most basic But like, it's objective. The CGI is terrible, and it like the most regular person who sees it is just like, ugh, look at that, and yet they couldn't even admit that and say this is just a reflection of men's desires to control women's bodies. Yeah. I'm not kidding. That was what they tried. That was their response to the criticism of the CGI.
Nah, don't take it. Just criticize them for it.
It's not a crap. And like in contrast to this, to a character that has mostly CGI, is a female character, female-led thing in more recent media, Alita Battle Angel. I love one of my favorite shows in recent media, okay? Because she's a great character. I love the... And look, it's not a flawless movie by any means, but it was really enjoyable. CGI was, like, amazing, okay? I can't stand this, like, two-faced, vilifying crap where they will vilify the fan base just to deflect criticisms because they're so insecure and untalented. That's the truth. That's the reality.
Yeah.
So after her getting fired, it moves to, I think she was trying to get jobs, but I can't remember which campus. But anyway, the family scene. Family scene wasn't terrible, but it should have been such a small part of the episode. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I don't know. I was expecting Bruce to be there, but he wasn't. Mm-hmm. Because... I mean, well, okay, no, it makes sense though, because she's like, see you next time at dinner, but then obviously later we find out that he can't be at dinner because of other things, but I didn't hate it either because it felt like a very normal family discussion with just...
Yeah, you know, it has very little important or impact to the larger story, apart from she finds her family a bit cringe and they say things that are a bit thoughtless that put a bad light on her. It's like, you know, someone got a promotion and they, kept their job or something like that.
Yeah.
And it was effective, but for the larger story, pointless. I mean, the dad relationship maybe could be used for something, and I'm glad that they didn't make the dad a complete, toss away goof where he actually shows some insight and concern to what's going on. But that was the important thing. Again, I'm not sure if they're going to use that for anything significant in the show later on. And it would be important to have, a character that offers words of wisdom and encouragement when the times get bad and everything. But I doubt they're going to do that in the show. I think the dad's just going to be there to be, dad, If they use him for something useful, great. But if not, it's pointless.
Yeah, I hope they've set him up to be some sort of, wisdom guru, because now that she has kind of that family dinner, she can go there, talk with him, and we've seen him, he has good advice. And I think as well, since Bruce is now off-world, she needs that, even though she wasn't listening to Bruce to begin with, that's fine.
Bruce goes off-world, by the way.
Yeah, he just goes off-world. But, I mean, everything else in the family dinner just felt a bit pointless. And, I think it was just being comedy and funny for the sake of it.
Yeah, it was...
Your cousin, who obviously is more of a screw-up.
This was an attempt at comedy. Yeah. I didn't laugh through a single thing. I just thought this was not terribly... If you wanted to convey a cringe family dinner, all right, you achieved it, but it didn't lift the episode as a result. This was bare minimum achieving the vaguest level of what you wanted to achieve, but it wasn't a hilarious laugh out loud made the show better by any. If these were the attempts at humor, oh my goodness!
I would have enjoyed it more had it just been a parents' dinner with her, and they had an actual discussion there. That would have felt more meaningful, and then it would be like, okay, they can mention, the other parts of the family, the extended family, we'll deal with it when that comes to it. But, walking straight into that, I don't know, just the other cousin as well being like, oh, yeah, I'm a manager at Best Buy, and
The other thing...
It's just not my humour.
There's another element to this, is the family probably isn't responding in the most authentic, realistic way that they should in context for what's happened. They should know what Banner went through and had more concern and interact. They were the family, right?
Yeah.
Or probably interrogated by the government, went through the hell themselves. None of that comes to the surface. No one is like, are you sure you can control it? There would be fear, there would be concern. Is the government going to come? There's nothing. They play it off like it's a nothing, and only the dad may be mild concern, but they're more like saying, this is great, aren't you? Also, yeah, I'll get a job. Or whatever.
No, you're right, especially if it's... With Bruce and stuff, there'll probably be some more trauma coming back from them all having been...
Wouldn't it be interesting if the family were petrified of her and were avoiding her and just were afraid to have dinner? And she's she says, my family haven't called me in a while. She calls, oh yeah, I want to come visit, have dinner. She's like, no, that's fine. And then she actually rocks up and they're actually showing legitimate fear.
Yeah.
But they can't. This is a fun comedy show. How dare they have, something with...
That would have been such a good emotional beat. You would have felt something for her.
Again, and perhaps, what if she had an arc that she had to prove to the world and her family that she was in control and she wasn't as dangerous as the Hulk was, because, again, they didn't want to actually make her have elements of losing control and unable to manage her anger and stuff because they made her a Mary Sue. But at least you could have then had, what about the other world? But everyone is like, oh, she's just a superhero. We love her now.
Yeah.
Nothing. They get so many missed opportunities in this. Then it cuts to her basically just trying to, drown her sorrows. She's drunk at a bar. She doesn't have a tab. Then this, guy, lawyer, whatever, who was part of the other trial appears and says, you had us on the rails and it would have won. And then, again, it comes up that thing like they continued the trial. It was so dumb. They were able to argue a mistrial, but because she technically won, he wanted to hire her. And for how dodgy, they showed this law firm who they were representing, it really made, they don't address that she's accepting a job from a dodgy guy at all. They just kind of pass over it, and she accepts it pretty darn quickly because she's out of money.
She's desperate.
That's it. Those are some moral convictions and standards you have there.
Also, just her slump with unemployment was really quick.
Yeah.
And her friend was like, don't go... my wife called me out this. She's like, Nathan, don't be so critical. But when her friend was like, don't work here. They don't have good snacks. I was like, okay, sure, as your friend, I'd be like, nah, because there's some places, they have cool benefits and whatever. And I guess as a lawyer, you get a bit... You get treated a bit more, luxuriously, but I don't know. I just felt like, your friend's desperate. She needs a job. Maybe don't look at the snack menu to see whether this is a good place.
I agree. In isolation, maybe it would have been something to disregard, but collectively, it feels like another sign of her, entitlement and selfishness. It's like every small thing adds up, and it's there again and again and again. So she just, accepts the job, doesn't consider really any of the implications that this guy might be dodgy.
Also, she was drunk. I don't know if it's the best time to make any decision like this.
True.
You should be like, either turn to Hulk form, because you can't get drunk, can you, when you're Hulk? And secondly, maybe wait for a better working environment to have that discussion than a bar. Yeah. Now,
one of the, I think, few or only characters that don't really pander to her because of being She-Hulk is this guy, where he is like, he tells her, I expect you to do this, you're my employee, and he basically shows no intimidation, concern, or anything, which actually makes him a fairly decisive, kind of strong character. And I'm wondering, are they trying to make this guy chauvinistic or, all that stuff? I didn't really get that vibe from him. He was just like, you do what I say because I'm your boss.
Yeah.
I was like, and there was one line that I even half appreciate where he's like, I'll accept your job under one condition, if I can hire my own paralegal. And he's like, responds, I truly do not care who your paralegal is. It's like, I don't know why. I just I don't give a crap. Do the job.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. I'm wondering what they're trying to say about him. Maybe they have no idea because
I don't know.
So now she's arriving at the job, and he meets her. Interesting that, did he know that she was arriving? Because he's just
maybe
there.
They sent an email
they have video cameras, and there's the She-Hulk lady's arriving. I'll go down and meet her. It's like, okay. Anyway, he goes down and meets her there. Again, so this is a perfect example of them wanting to achieve something in the show and not justifying it logically. What they wanted the awkward moment of her having to walk through the office as She-Hulk and someone telling her that she has to be it. The only person who could tell her is the guy that hired her.
Yeah.
How to do that? He needs to meet her before she walks through the office, so he goes down there and is just there. And they don't justify it. Why? What? Again, this is a smaller element, but it's a sign of the exact same thing that I'm talking about, where they lack the intelligence to justify what they want to achieve in the plot, so they just do it and it becomes nonsense. Again, it could have a small little 2-second things like, I need to meet, call me as soon as you see Jennifer Walters arrive, especially if she's not looking green. And, they see her coming out of the car, so she's arrived and she's not green, and then done. Yeah. They don't do that. It's just like he was there waiting for her or something.
Yeah.
Right? Anyway, so then he tells her she needs to be in She-Hulk. And again, incompetence of the writing. She can now change into She-Hulk. What looks to be the same. The suit fits her in a regular form, and when she changes, it's a little tighter, but it's perfectly intact.
See, I do have issue with this because did she buy like a stretchy suit that fits her? Because later, when she's talking to a paralegal, she says, I've got to be the She-Hulk during this, and I've got to buy a whole new wardrobe.
Specifically says have to buy a whole new wardrobe.
But her clothes are fitting her!
Before, it literally busted seams and everything. Now, it's perfectly intact! Like, I was expecting her to respond when she says you have to change your She-Hulk. I was like, sir, my clothes are going to rip. I'll look like a ragtag thing. And then his response like, go buy a new suit, come back here in half an hour or something.
Yeah.
You know, there's a place just down the road. And they could cut to her then just walking back in as She-Hulk. Done. There's a line. You could achieve it in like a couple of seconds. You don't even need to see her getting the suit. Just cut back to now, her walking back in a new suit in She-Hulk form. Done, with him waiting there. And maybe you could say, that took longer than I expected. And maybe you could fit in a joke or something.
Yeah.
But incompetent. They're just like, now we need her to change in She-Hulk. The suit will stretch to fit her. When it contradicts what they established in their own show, that when she changes, the suit will rip.
Again. And then later she changes back, and the suit still fits her. So, you know, it's not like it's stretched out.
The only thing I noticed is that the pants became really, really tight and didn't reach, like, it was only coming down a little to her thighs.
Yeah.
But no, like, we saw how the suit was not baggy on her in a regular form, and with the size change, she would have busted seams quite a lot. You know, it would have perhaps even been worse. But can't have that. We want the scene of her walking through the office and people looking at her and gawking and stuff. And so we'll throw out logical consistency out the window because this is what we want in the show and they don't have the talent to even think about it. And this is basic stuff. Like really writing 101 stuff, right? And they can't even achieve this.
Also, the fourth wall breaks I did not find at all.
No, look, I was gonna give it a pass, but you're right. Like, they're not coming off well done. The thing is, I am not too experienced with fourth wall breaks to hike. If I was doing it, I'll research what makes a good fourth wall break and everything to make it seem to work. And usually, fourth wall breaks, sometimes they're done in a meta way that they're not affecting the real world, right? Yeah. That you're just looking to and no one is noticing, everything like that. The way that they're doing it is that she's actually doing this. And this is where it's bizarre because the implication that this is actually happening is that she's not paying attention to what the guy is saying, and then he asks her a question and she doesn't know what the question was.
Yeah.
Because she was doing the fourth wall break. It seems to be like this was her internal monologue. She was thinking this, and then she was just doing a thing. But we have to infer that, and because there was a previous fourth wall break where she says something to the camera, and Hulk literally turns that way and he heard her say something.
Yeah. So they're not really fourth wall breaks because everyone's aware. Like, that's what I found.
They're inconsistent with how they're done. Do people hear what she's saying? Like, the Hulk responded, but if so, why isn't anyone hearing her saying this stuff now in this fourth wall break?
Yeah.
And are they meta outside the universe? And if so, you know, why has she not heard anything he said, but she's zoning out because of thinking about it?
Yeah. I think the best ones have been Deadpool and Ferris Bueller's Day Off. They do really well I think they isolate the conversation between them and the viewer and then them in the story, where especially when they're walking through the building, she's talking to her boss and then immediately talks to you back and forth. There's no separation between them both. And so sometimes I'm confused with, like, did he hear that? Was that...
Now,
what?
I can't remember the exact one, but I think Colossus does respond to one of Deadpool's fourth wall breaks. I can't remember the exact instance where it happened. But Deadpool can kind of pull that off because he is almost a meta character in and of himself. He's quirky and stuff like that. She-Hulk is not to that level, but there are times in the comic books where she even yells at the writer and narrator or something like that to that level.
Yeah.
And so, I haven't read She-Hulk enough to be able to make a comparison. I'm just knowing the way that's been doing at the moment. Yeah, I'm just not feeling it. So we'll see how it goes. I think there could be much better ways to do it. And maybe I think it needs to be more consistent because it only happened once in this episode.
it happened at the end as well. The last one, before the credits, that was the only fourth wall break I actually felt past.
I think it would work better. Maybe if they were a bit more consistent, like there's a running narrative that she's sharing with the audience. So now you're thinking this, or she introduces, a bit like Ferris Bueller's Day Off. They seem to be fairly consistent where he's explaining kind of meta things. The reason why Ferris Bueller works really well is because it's also from his own perspective and has his own quirky stuff like that. Like, I remember when he's talking about his friends, like, you know, if he goes like this way, he's going to marry the first, you know, girl that ever gets him laid. And she's going to treat him like crap and stuff like that. It has his own snark in it, where, I don't know, I'm not getting this. This character is a bit of a, I don't know, she's got an uninteresting, arrogant character, and so there's not interesting dialogue happening with the fourth wall breaks.
Yeah, I think that, you're right. They're not being consistent with it, and sometimes it's just her speaking her mind. It is mostly that, but it's at very weird moments where you're not expecting it. So my next one is when they are in the office, and then the nice little other lawyer comes in with a basket and gives it to them and says, "Welcome. Here's the best toilet to poop in."
Is this like female meta humor? Do women just know that, like, oh, this guy, he understands the female mindset, because they're like, oh, because as a guy, I don't care.
I think it's more of just that, look, this is a far off place you can go that no one will know.
Because both the women respond, like She-Hulk, respond like, oh, you're so thoughtful, you know what we want, kind of thing. And like, is this real? I have no idea. If it is, mysterious womanly stuff beyond their knowledge of man.
Yeah, my comment here was like, look, Shad, this show was not made for us with these jokes.
Because is this a joke? Like, do women, like, I don't know. Claudia? Is it important that women know the better place to poop in an office?
If there's like a secret place you can go.
That was just nicer to poop in.
Yeah.
Is that important to women?
Sure.
Okay.
You don't want to poop in a crap hole.
Yeah, but like I'm saying, is this like a constant, when women go to any new place, they need to know the best place to poop? Is this high on their priority?
Maybe in Hollywood.
Maybe.
I don't.
It's not something that's in the forefront of my mind.
That's what I would assume.
No, I think it was a joke, and it was humour, and it wasn't...
Well, then I don't have the context for it to land at all.
Yeah, no, I think, again, that joke was not made for us.
I'm not sure if it was even made for women. Is it made for, like, middle-aged office Hollywood types?
I think it is very officely I don't know, honestly.
We don't know, people!
Comment down below. What does it mean?
So then there is the conflict of interest, where he says, you know, you're going to be representing the guy that, you know, tried to kill your brother and stuff. And then they try and justify it like he wrote something that waived the conflict of interest. And I'm wondering, like, look, again, I don't know much about lawyery stuff. I don't think that would count. Because the conflict of interest isn't necessarily as important to the person who's getting represented, but the people opposing it. And that's, you know, you'd think that the lawyer or even the judge could just look at that conflict of interest and say, why, you're not allowed to get it, you know.
Yeah, no, it's the same with psychology as well. I know, like, even though you might be, you know, you can't see someone who you know personally or as family or friends, and even if they're like, oh no it's fine, here's a waiver of conflict of interest, you still can't do it ethically.
Yeah, like,
you can't do it.
I thought there would be laws that stipulate this.
I think it would be the same with lawyers. It's like, you cannot, because even though he's signed this waiver saying, it's all good, ethically you shouldn't do it.
Again, the writers, how competent, or like, have they researched anything? They said they don't know how to do lawyery stuff, like courtroom dramas, whatever, but they want the story to go forward. So again, remember, sign and sign again, where they want this to happen in the plot, so they will disregard, justify, and in this, they try and address it, but again, I'm like wondering, I'm not sure this will work, where the guy's like, it's fine, he signed something for it. It's like,
I hope they bring it back when they actually are in the courtroom, and then the other lawyer's like, you can't do this.
Yep.
Conflict of interest.
We demand a mistrial. Due to this conflict of interest, she is probably disregarding certain important things or whatever, you know. So, yeah, it makes me wonder. She arrives this one again, the stupidity. She arrives in this Supermax prison thing, right? She's in She-Hulk form, it's like, no superpowers allowed inside the building. She goes back to her regular form. She still has the superpowers. Like, what? Like, what if her intent was to bust him out, right? You haven't nullified her powers at all. You're letting someone in basically with a nuke. And just because you can't see it doesn't mean it's not there.
Also, it's, we're in the 2020s now. Zoom's a thing. Lawyers would do that all the time. I think it'd be easy just for her to...
They want the in-person interaction. Again, they want to achieve something in the story, yet they lack the competence to justify it, so they just do it and let nonsense...
I mean, holograms have been a thing for a while now.
Exactly! They could do holograms, or they could justify the reason why she's allowed to, as like, no superpowers allowed. It's like, I've been cleared by the vetting agency or whatever like that. Yeah. I could accept that. There's nothing. She just turns back to her normal form, and we're supposed to think that that justifies the rule that they established. No superpowers a thing, when it doesn't. She has easily as much access to her powers before. They don't address how she's allowed, and it could have been done so easily. Yet they lack the thought, the consideration, the logic, the intelligence to address it with half of a line, and it would have been done. But they let the stupidity just hang there, and you're just left thinking, what? Again, because they want to achieve their... Remember how I said there were multiple signs of them doing this? I think it's the third or fourth one I've pointed out. My goodness. These writers are just awful. Like, they're bad writers. That's what I'm saying. Okay. Yeah.
Look, I will admit, when Abomination came into the picture, this is when I started to like it a bit more.
I know, he's just a charismatic actor. So the guy who does it, I really enjoyed him in Lie to Me, okay? And he was effective enough. He doesn't kind of match the, military kind of
guy that we saw in the first Hulk.
Well, even in the first Hulk, he didn't really suit it, but,
I just hope that his, I'm a nice guy now, I do haikus, stuff like that. I'm going with my Kiwi accent, but I just hope it's not a facade. I hope you actually see some of his, darker, evil... No, I don't want him to be some nice guy now that's perfect, because we know that he wasn't. I don't expect they will, but they might, because these writers... All things off the table for stupidity. They're going to do anything at the moment. It almost wouldn't surprise me. But you'd think that there's a lot to work with the duplicity of this character and stuff. Because we saw what actually happened, separate to what he was... And it's interesting, I'm glad that they're trying to frame it in a different perspective from a war perspective. Where it was the government that got me to do this, which, there's, something interesting in that. I'm glad that they... And this is bare minimum, scraping bottom of the barrel stuff, that her as a lawyer kind of saw that, it might not... I could argue this in a certain different way that could get him his parole and stuff. But... So they could do that, yet we know from the actual film that he was, deranged, where he just wanted the power and the strength, and he was on, a hell-bent kill spree to kill the Hulk because, all those things. I thought he couldn't change back, but now he can. I thought he was permanently in Abomination form. So they could lead to some interesting things, okay? And to me, this was... I was expecting... By the progress of the story, we're barely halfway through the episode. And that the episode really picks up when it ends. But then it ended, I was just like, that's it? Yep.
Because she talks to him, he does this, sob story, and you can tell that, he's laying it on thick, he's lying where he's writing these poetries of, saying sorry and stuff. And anyone with half a brain would see that this guy's full of it, but, she, buys it. Even Hulk buys it, but Hulk is an idiot, so it makes sense now for that. So that, he's not really repentant and sorry. And anyway, so there's that, but she's like, there actually is grounds that I could get him off, there. And I could see that they could argue it that way. It was the government that originally did hire him, and, the guy who was doing it, I forget it was General someone. But yeah, he was bit, unbalanced in his desire to capture Banner and all that stuff. So that I think there's an angle there. She calls up Bruce, and it's a bit of a weird conversation where it's like, there's all these reasons, everything like that. I need to ask you. And then it's like, you're not asking me to do it anyway. Yeah, I'm going to do it anyway. And it's like, I'm not getting much from it. It's like...
Yeah, I mean, she was also talking a lot like that with her dad, just kind of spewing out all her thoughts and feelings. So at least they're kind of somewhat consistent with her character when she gets a bit emotionally overwhelmed. But as well, there's one. This is the one line that I was like, "Ha!" Was when Bruce said, "That fight was so long ago. I'm a completely different person now." Literally.
You laughed at that?
I laughed at that because
I'm laughing at you laughing at that. I was like, really?
laughed at that. I was like, yeah, because you are. You're different from the Incredible Hulk.
Ah, that's sad, man.
It was funny. Because I would have written that into the show. I want to be that self-aware.
Maybe if I pushed it as a purposely really bad joke.
Yeah.
You know, I was a different man back there. You know, because I was a different man. But, I don't know.
That was the one laugh I got out of this show.
All right. And then, he's on a spaceship. It's like... that's
Fury.
how they're resolving the fact that this spaceship caused an injury that almost killed both of you. Now he's on that ship going somewhere. Okay. I wonder if they're trying to set up something with the Hulk in the future. Like, are they going to try and do World War Hulk or something?
I don't know. I assume that he's going to go hang with Nick Fury because there's always that... Everyone's going to space now to do something. So there's going to be a big setup there.
Secret war, maybe.
Yeah.
Secret invasion, what it is. And then... Lloyd, her boss calls up, turn on the news. She turns on the news and finds out that Abomination has been sneaking out of prison, and there's the shot from when he's in Shang-Chi because he was in that pointless scene where he was fighting Wong. And I was like, oh well, now she's got problems to deal with. I thought this was going to lead somewhere, that he actually busted out for real and was now at large. And that would have been something interesting. But it's not even that. It's just like, oh, now it become news that he was sneaking out. He's still in prison. To me, that's not... It's like, oh, you know, it was another guy. Like, I was here the whole time. No one saw me leave. Problem solved.
But this is the only time I think the fourth wall break worked, when she goes, well, that sucks.
You know, I agree. I think that does work.
That one actually worked.
I can give it that. But seriously, with all the powers that exist in this world, right, and it's so easy to deflect this, like, that wasn't me. Someone must have been turning into, you know, a version of me.
Shapeshifter.
Exactly. You think there can't be shapeshifters that can adopt, you know, other people's forms to get some of their powers or things? And this is the thing. We know in the larger Marvel universe there are shapeshifters that can do that. And so, you know, and the fact that no one noticed him leave, he has a pretty strong alibi. It's like, I was here the whole time. Check the cameras. You think no one saw the cameras and saw him leave in the first place? This isn't an issue.
Yeah.
But now they're saying it is, and they're dodging the really interesting thing that could have been if he actually broke free, and she feels... would she feel some responsibility to try and deal with it? Well, Bruce has just left.
Yeah.
She doesn't actually know that, though. If he said... I gotta go off-world for it. Off-world, sorry, I can't talk about it, it's gone. Then she knows he's not here.
Yeah.
Abomination just broke free. Who's the next person who has similar Hulk-like powers that might be able to bring in... The fact is, actually, there's a lot of people that could be like... Captain Marvel could just...
But she's off-world.
She's off-world as well. Where's Spider-Man? Where's it? So they could justify that the closest available person with the power level strong enough to take on Abomination would be her, and we've got something interesting, superhero-y, fun, but they're not going to do that anyway.
No, that would have been fun, actually. The other thing, actually, I just remembered, in the prison scene, he talks about how he just wants, like, to live on lots of land.
Oh, yeah, with his seven
soulmates.
soulmates. It's like, is that setting up like a sinister, evil group of villain people?
I don't know. I was confused. There wasn't much context.
I think that was. I think that's their attempt of Chekhov's gun. You know, gun on the mantelpiece. It's a hint. Like, I think they're setting up perhaps a group of villains that they're going to team up together. Those are his soulmates. Because he says, like, you know, it's his soulmates in prison.
Yeah.
His, you know, and so not very subtle there. It's to me, it's kind of obvious, but we'll see if they follow through. Because this is the thing. To me, this is like a blatant setup, but the writers are showing themselves to be that incompetent that they might. I could totally believe that they won't follow through on blatantly clear setups like this, and they just forget about it because they forget about a lot of stuff in other shows and just don't follow through things through.
Yeah.
With Disney level writing, I mean.
But yeah, aside from my last comments, were just like this episode felt extremely short when it was like at the precipice of, me
Something
getting
interesting, and
Cut!
then that's it. It's like, and I'm like, that was a boring non-episode, basically.
But that's what Marvel does now. They will set things up, and then they'll set things up, and then they'll set things up.
I don't have any confidence the next anything interesting is going to happen in the next episode. She'll get there. You broke out of prison, yeah, and then they'll do something else. Like
Yeah,
they want. Remember how they said there was some interviews where they said this show is going to be like her dealing with her life, moving furniture,
Yeah.
and then we have an after credit scene of her moving furniture and carrying things in for her family and stuff.
My comment for the after credit scene was, at least she's starting out small, helping her family. Okay, build up to serving others.
I get the impression that's going to be the show. Like, this is the show. You think it's going to be a superhero thing? Like, what we got in this episode, boring filler, nothing. I get the impression is She-Hulk. Wait till episode 3. But that's my impression. Overall, it is still an incompetently written dumpster fire piece of crap of a show. Like, this is awful. And anyone paying attention, did I at one point ever say this is bad because of female lead? No, I didn't. We gave legitimate reasons, points, evidences from the episode where we explained why it's bad on a technical level, and nothing had to do with it because she was a woman.
There were some parts that I didn't hate, meaning that there's a possibility for me to enjoy it.
There was a lot of possibilities to make something enjoyable with this, but this is what we get. My goodness. There we go. She-Hulk, episode 2. Until next time, stay on watch.